Welcome everybody. Assalamu alaikum. It is 18 hours 52 minutes. For the record, it is Monday the 29th day of September 2025. AJ is back. So basically this is a quick video as to my application before the Supreme Court of Canada, right? We have lower courts, municipalities, rules and regulation, bylaws, right? Acts of Parliament, pick your favorite jurisdiction. We have 10 provinces and 3 territories in a country called Canada, right? So, declaration. This is a peaceful declaration. My name is Ahmed Jr., right? I said AJ, aka Ahmed Jr. I am the sole chief executive or executor and basically of my bodily autonomy and legal estate and the trust registered in the name Ahmed Al-Shihabi. So the previous video got taken out for some reason, so I'm just gonna keep going and I'll post all the supporting document as evidence and proof to what I'm saying, because perhaps if I show ID on the video, Google and the Matrix flags it as something inappropriate content. So the previous video I tried to post has been published, but it did not basically make it to the airwaves, right? Inappropriate content. So I, AJ, aka Ahmed Jr., claim the legal estate, right, and a trust account registered in my name, Ahmed Al-Shihabi, as well as SIM card 527-514-186. So I am a natural born human first, an indigenous Palestinian, born refugee in the city of Damascus, far away, right, Damascus, Syria, with a permanent residence record of October the 26th day, 1999. Graduate of Richmond High School with honors, 2003. Went on to seek higher education and a graduate of Carleton University class 2009 in the field of aerospace, electronics, and system design engineering, with plus 15, so over 15 years of cumulative career and basically high-tech startup career experience, you know, in different market verticals across wide range of industry and application domains, from semiconductors, well, initially as a jump started my career, my internship at Alcatel, a French-based company that had acquired Newbridge, one of the crown jewels in Canada High-Tech Park, Newbridge. Alcatel became Alcatel-Lucent around 2007-2008. I was brought back in because I had jump-started my career in 2006, May through August 2007. I went back to university to finish my fourth year basically, and clear my requirements, and I had basically finished my fourth year project and multidisciplinary project, unmanned aerial vehicle. And yeah, graduated in 2009 class. 2009 I had basically going through life motion, and by 2010 I had landed my first full-time job at Clear Semiconductor. So that's when I first started my full-time career post-graduation. And recall 2007-8 we had subprime mortgage crisis. Basically, you know, we had the 1% Occupy Wall Street, Occupy Bay Street, and what have you. The big corps got bailed out, and they're cracking champagne bottles on the balconies, or the people are left to sink, right? So over 15 years of cumulative industry career and high-tech and startup primarily. So from Clear Semiconductor, which was acquired by SMSC, which is now Microchip, to working as a consultant at an arm's length of no other than the rapper himself, 50 Cent, right? Through a contract with Zephyr Audios. Zephyr's Audio, basically my account based in France. Regis, right? That's the CEO or the founder of the company's name, Regis, based in France. And I worked with the lead engineer over there. His name is Matthew. So I was basically subject matter expert, being consulted to integrating this clear custom proprietary 2.4 gigahertz radio for audio applications. So wireless hi-fi application. This is way before AirPods, man. Like, where's AirPods? It's like shitty technology compared to Clears. So then from Clear to working at arm's length with the infamous rapper 50 Cent, to basically assuming the role of a junior hardware engineer at Paradigm Electronics, right here in the eastern east side of the basically Ottawa, in the Canotic Industrial Park. That was the R&D center essentially, and the operation took place elsewhere for Martin Logan, basically brand, as well as Paradigm, right? That's the professional audio market. I was there from June 2011 through December 2013. By January 2014, I had basically moved back to semiconductor, working for Sidence, which is a crown jewel in the non-volatile memory semiconductor IP. So third-party semiconductor IP, non-volatile memory, anti-fuse technology. So this is Sidence, which was acquired in 2017, I believe, by Synopsys. Right, I had left in 2015, October, November, I believe. So roughly almost 2 years. But there has been talk between Synopsys and Sidence to basically be acquired, so merger and acquisition. Previously, Synopsys had just acquired Kilopass, which was the lead competitors to Sidence anti-fuse one transistor cell technology for non-volatile memory. And I was, and still continue to be, the subject matter experts with basically the non-volatile memories. And I had established my consulting business, Smart NVM, and later incorporated federally under the Canadian rules and regulation, a company called Smart NVM, Nancy Victor Martinez Analytics Incorporation. I did that back in 2018. Now, previous to that, I had left Sidus in 2015. 16, I was basically trying to focus on raising money as an entrepreneur. I have gone through different cycles to pitching to various angel investors and the ecosystem here in Ottawa, so to speak. And I had the chance to speak one of the serial entrepreneurs by the name of Mo Fathi, right? Not Mo. It's that probably is Eli Fathi. Now, what happened is Eli Fathi is a recipient of the Order of Canada, right? Because he's a serial entrepreneur. And there was a TEDx talk, I believe, in 2018. I had just spoken to Eli and explained to him my vision. And I had this vision of using AI before AI was the mainstream thing, to basically simplify and streamline the process of selecting an optimum non-volatile memory core for basically the integration in modern chips. Any smart chip, application processor, what have you, requires foundational building block. Semiconductor operates with the ecosystem has three players. You have first your developers, right? Third-party semiconductor developers, such as ARM, in the case of processor. So that's how Apple and other company can license ARM as a core processor. And you need now foundational building blocks such as memory, which is required as a scratch pad. You have volatile and non-volatile, SRAM, register level, versus non-volatile, so flash or essentially anti-fuse and what have you. So you need to have memory, so the hardware, the chip, can actually boot and execute code once you apply power, and when you remove power, it still remembers and knows, right? The chip will only execute code. But if the code gets corrupted, and that's where the problem becomes. So the memory has been corrupt. And this is where it basically gets us to RMA, or return material authorization. So now the customer integrating the foundational building block memory, because remember, if you're say a company in the such as SEN or MEMSIC, I work with these companies and the like of Intel and Analog Devices, Texas Instruments, throughout my 2 years tenure at Sidence, being as a subject matter expert, right, to again not only recommending and proposing a solution, because again we are trying to compete in this market versus other companies that have similar technologies, but we now have to demonstrate and show with data that our technology is superior. This is why customers actually want to integrate your product or your memory IP versus someone else's. So essentially, when I left, I had this vision and ambition to streamline the process, and also failure analysis, so root cause failure analysis, because often these chip designers, because the ecosystem requires three main players: the foundational building block semiconductor third-party IP, and then you have the chip designers such as the Apple, Texas Instrument, the one that actually design these chips, and some of them are mostly fabless, but then you have some original device manufacturer such as Texas Instrument. They have their own processes and what have you, and we can port right from TSMC to some other, say, fabrication house, following their fabrication process, because you need otherwise to contract to third-party foundries such as TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor. So those are the three main players. You need the foundational building block, developed by third-party semiconductor IP vendors, the chip designer, and then the contract manufacturer. If they don't have the ability, such as Apple, they do not have manufacturing facilities to fabricate these chips, so they contract TSMC. So now basically once the product is good, you don't have to sell it. The product sells itself. So here I am basically working as a consultant, and by 2017, because I left in 2015, so 16 around June time frame, because startups are not for the faint-hearted. You got to go through, and most of the companies, when you try to raise money for funds for your vision, you got to go and convince the next person. And most people, if they don't understand the value, well, they don't understand, and you just need to keep trying. And essentially, I had applied for the Y Combinator, and I was accepted into. I made it through the application process. Over 7,000 people worldwide apply. I believe only 700 people get selected, and only 70 gets called to the California, Y Combinator, Powell, Alto, if I'm not mistaken. Basically you get there, 12 weeks boot camp, so to speak. Different startups at various stages, from early stage, seed, all the way to series A, B, C, D, all the way to E, merger and acquisition, right, exit strategy. And following the 12-week boot camp, essentially you are presenting your solution, because the idea is you have worked on your value proposition, and you clearly understand the business model and how you are going to make money. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to seek money from outside, especially called outside capital, well, you need to return. There's a return on investment. So the Nasdaq basically is on average 5.5%. No problem. I mean, there are some companies that have seen hyper growth, and others that have ceased to basically exist. Yeah, just the way it works in the corporate world, right? I mean, if you cannot sustain your operation, and you're bamboozled with litigation, right? IP litigation, because it's not walk in the park. You have to always be careful not to infringe on other people intellectual property, because now there are liabilities. There are going to be patent laws, and you're going to basically pay a royalty. So the business model in the semiconductor is pretty simple. Sales is roughly 20% of the the value of the contract, and then you have to fulfill on this order, on this contract terms and conditions stipulated in the agreement. And this is basically because you need to safeguard and protect the interest of party A, party B, the client and the seller. And this is bound by the contract law. And when something goes wrong, well, there's maintenance and support, and the first year you are already paying 20% license fees, right? That's how they structure it. And then you have basically royalty, all based on the volume production, how much you produce. And no semiconductor company will talk to you if you're not, or IP for that matter, will talk to you if you're not pumping minimum. There's MOQ, they call it, minimum order quantity. So 50,000 chips at a minimum before a semiconductor chip will talk to you. Like when I was at Clear, if you don't have 50,000 volume chips minimum, nobody is going to talk to you. But there's a tremendous amount of work and energy that needs to be invested to hire an application engineer or a staff to basically take you through the process, walk you through the process to integrating this new technology into your, for example, headphone in the cases of Clear. So it's a chip. We're gonna basically have wireless headphones. So now most companies, including the Sonys and the Samsung and the Sennheiser, and all these big names, if you will, they have been mastering, audio files with the wire, right? But now we need wireless, and you have to be able to integrate your wireless transceiver so you can have a good user experience. You're not going to go buy a wireless headphone only for the headphone not to operate and function correctly every 2 minutes or less. Is going to be, dropping, and you have no range, and the battery life is bad, and you have shitty quality. So this is what Bluetooth is. It's geared for data. And that's kind of where everything is. You go through life motion, you go through the industry, the experience, and what you graduate does not necessarily mean that you are going to understand and apply everything that you have learned in school in your day-to-day job. That's your profession, that's your practice. Same thing with the legal system. You have different lawyers because law is multifaceted, right? Multifaceted. So you have criminal law, you have family law, contract law, civil. There's a lot of things, civil claims, and criminal claims. You go to any court proceeding, there's a docket. It tells you if there's a criminal versus a civil claim. You can choose, and based on the municipalities and jurisdiction you are in, and you can find out where the companies are basically, or if there's a civil claim between companies or corporation versus individual people, right? When you are indicted criminally on allegation of criminal charges, well, fundamental justice suggests that you are innocent until proven guilty. This is why the Constitution of the land is to safeguard and protect those unalienable natural rights and freedom. So then you have the provincial acts of parliament, right, or legislative assembly, MLA. So MP, members of parliament, and MLA is in Alberta. And then you have the municipality rules and regulation, which basically adopt the federal law, right? That is the criminal code, RSC 1985, because Canada came to exist in 1982. The Constitution 1982 came. We just patrioted, but Canada came to exist when? Under the British North American Act in 1867, basically we have Canada and the Dominion, right? So the first 4 provinces, I speak time and time again. You have Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, Nova Brunswick. If you go to high school or junior high, you are learning about history of Canada, and basically this is we stand for the national anthem, and this is the Algonquin unceded, right? You have to say unceded Algonquin basically land. It's Algonquin unceded land. Why? As the indigenous, the people from Algonquin, right? So the corporate governance of Canada essentially operate under this trust law, right? So government trustee, parliament dictates laws. You have the law enforcement, so you have the administrative side and AE, so executive arm, AE, administrative and AE. And then on the other side, you have the beneficiary, right? Or you can be the accused. In this case, if we are brought into the court, there's a reason for you to appear before the court, before justice. There's a reason. You can't just be arbitrarily. Nobody goes to the courthouse because they are tourists, right? It doesn't happen. Right? You go and you watch other things. Of all things, your own family, your own friends, your own people, are so busy to, attend court proceeding. What makes you think that a tourist is going to just simply appear and be interested in going into the courthouse, unless you're a law student, perhaps you're, going through the, whatchamacallit, booking an appointment, right? Because you can go now and book an appointment with the staff registry, and you can basically book an appointment. You can go appear before a specific court hearing. You just have to get an appointment. But why is it that when I go to the superior court or lower courts, I can just walk in any courthouse and just sit down and listen to the proceeding, and I can't do the same thing at the Supreme Court of Canada right here at 200 Wellington? Fuckery. So this is the legal system here in Canada, the gist of it. The laws are very easy to understand. It's trust law, equal side triangle, right? You don't put the triangle on its tip, vertex, right? Because depending on how the wind blows, you either fall on this side or this side. You gotta be on both legs. When you stand on 2 legs, it's a stable, it's a strong foundation. You are grounded, and you must act in good faith and uphold the rule of the law. There's a reason why in 1982, the Canadian Constitution patriated from UK, London, because UK, London is across the Atlantic in, UK, right? UK fuckery. And then now, when you bring the corporate headquarters to the nation's capital of fuckery, Ottawa, right? This is the capital, right? That's Ottawa for you, and that's basically by 1982. We had basically some order of the 10 provinces and 3 territories, right? And so under Section 92 of the British North American Act, it's otherwise known as the Sovereignty Clause. This allows, right, provincial governments as well as natural persons to declare and assert their own sovereignty, to detach from that of the corporate governance of Canada, and therefore you are declaring and you are disassociating with the government of Canada because there's a breach of trust, perhaps, or you're an Amish or a Hutterite, or you don't simply want to abide and be subject to the corporate federal rules and regulation, acts of parliament, because it does not apply to you, you do not agree. So you can simply claim the name and therefore demand that under peaceful declaration that all the assets and liabilities in your trust account. Which trust account? Well, if you are in Canada, you have a social security number, you're a citizen, well, you have that as your trust account, which is basically held in your legal name, the legal estate, capital, first name, last name, capital. That's why it's called ID. When someone does you wrong, you go through that person. You need the name and an address to serve them, perhaps email address if you don't know where they live. But once you serve them, you can make advance motion that essentially I'm serving you, and this is the last email that I know on file that this person has communicated with me, and that person now has received the claim, the application, right? Because here you are going to appear before court, and you must call the parties. You must call the parties, right? There, someone does you wrong. It's not a ghost. He said, she said. You have to basically call the parties, and that parties could be corporation, fictitious entities transacting business on behalf of the government, arm's length. Hence, you have the municipalities of Ottawa, and, lower courts, justice system, crown prosecutor, duty counselor, the justice of the peace, and the judges, residing judges, lower court, superior court, the same thing, kind of thing, and then all the way to the stooges and the law enforcement, police, or medical staff or what have you. Because again, when they advance some allegation against you, they have to have an evidence, and in this case, if there are 5 criminal charges against the accused, the subject of A.J. Ahmed Jr., aka Ahmed Jr., right? A.J. Ahmed Jr. Natural birth record of July 27, 1985, and the name is below. It's not rocketry. So yeah, and essentially, we go through life motion, and I decided to, once I left Sidance, I had basically left in 2015. By 2016 June, I joined another company called Nuvio. Basically, they are the company behind the brand name Tableau. So this is, you go look at Google, just say Tableau Duo, and basically that was my baby. I was the one-man show responsible when I was first hired, brought into the company as a manager, research and development, right? So for hardware. So I was brought in. I was a single one-man show for basically the hardware R&D as a manager. So to oversee and basically take this prototype that they had. Again, the CEO, no other than Grant Hall. We had the interview, and basically, it's a 90% finished prototype, but it's not on the market. The last 10% is harder than the first 90%. And single-handedly, I managed to basically from June to August, take matters into my hand, and even despite not having the necessary electronic design automation and software required to modify the circuits and what I need to basically manufacture, because at the time we had retained the company had retained a hardware engineer for the schematic, which is basically the blueprints, and then the physical PCB, the printed circuit board designer. So I mean, often you have different people for different tasks, but in my case I could do both. So now by February we had basically production, and we had production fire, and again single-handedly I was able to solve the problem and fulfill on my promise to basically have the first 2,000 units to be shipped to Best Buy USA. And I had just left basically a week or two before my 1-year anniversary. I had started in June, I believe, and then I had just before my 1-year anniversary, because here you are brought in as manager R&D hardware, right? But you are basically getting paid peanuts because budget, right? Budgetary reason, no problem. And here you are asking me to do more than I'm required to do, and we have to negotiate my roles and responsibility and my compensation thereof. So I left because there was a disagreement. I did not believe there was a even remotely remote kind of appreciation to the value that I was bringing into the company. So I left, and basically for some times I went back and focused again on smart NVM analytics, 2017 through 2018, like almost a year. And I had gone to Illinois, Naperville, where I met with one of my so to speak clients, right, at Memzik. So his name is Alex Drabinsky, and he was one of the basically lead design engineer manager on one of the chips, right, that I was at one point consulting on, basically optimizing program time, because the memory that you now have licensed to integrate into your sensor chip, right, I believe it was a magnetometer if I'm not mistaken, nonetheless, you have to store calibration or trim or what have you on the chip. Now you need to go through the process of applying a specific, right, and following a specific process to programming these non-volatile bits, which essentially you are breaking through the thin oxide in the case of anti-fuse one transistor cell, proprietary of Sidance, which is now Synopsys, right? So there's a process, and you need to be able to follow the process so you can correctly and burn and program the memory core without the risk of data loss or data corruption. So the integrity of the data must be safeguarded. And there's a process when you go program the memory array, and you have to follow, and that takes time. Specific voltage, you have to, again, zap the CMOS, right? So you have a CMOS, so you have a gate, source, drain, and then you zap the gate by applying a voltage between the source and the drain higher than what the, because you have core voltage and you have IO voltage. So the core is the 1.8 volt. It all depends on the process, and then the IO voltage 3.3 or 5 volts. So that's the IO ring, right? So it's higher voltage because you don't need to switch IOs at a much higher speed than the core processing speed. So a core processor can switch at a much higher clocks versus the outputs or the inputs, right? So now you follow the process, and I was brought in basically as a consultant to try and essentially debug and see how we could, or how the company could go about and optimizing the memory core program time, because time is money. When you have to spend 1 second, that's 1 second, but when you have millions of devices, I mean, if you have 50 million devices, right, a month that you ship, well, do the math. Even 1 second, 50 million seconds, and 12 months, how many years? 5 years consumer cycle is a lot of time. And even at say what is it, like $60 an hour for a technician, you can say it's $1 per minute, and you can do the math, and essentially it's no brainer that when you save on bottom costs, you are going to increase your profit margins. So I had gone through that, and essentially by 2018, as I'm going through the life motion, and no contract has been signed per se, but I have all the email record that I was communicating with Alex and the team all the way in China, and basically to train and educate after I debug and remotely basically debug the findings, right, as I instruct the test engineers, right, ATE operators, so automatic test equipment, ATE, as to what to do, and to basically characterize and come up with a methodological approach and data-driven programming algorithm. So for once basically the relationship was severed, so to speak, because here I am expecting compensation. Simply because there was no contract signed does not mean you can just run away and steal my ideas and use my techniques and my IP and not compensate me. There's no way that you did not, as a company, employ any of the ideas that I gave you, only perhaps not on that very project, but on a similar project. Because look, the fundamentals is the same. P equal IV. Ohm's law, V equal IR, right? And from there, we can be creative. So as I left, the consulting and the gig with Y Combinator did not go through. I took it into my own hand for 6 months. Once I left Nuvio, right, for 6 months, I was basically building my own VBA, Visual Basic Application, where basically I built a full app using Excel, front end and back end database with SQL as well as VBA code to basically do what? Develop an app that can analyze and basically crunch millions of data points and essentially save, right? Because in 5 minutes, when I went back to Cyrus to showcase my demo to no other than the test manager by the name of Brent, right? I believe it's Brent Allen. So, and I showed up my demo, which normally would take them 16 weeks for basic characterization of the memory array cell current, right? So I was able to do that graphically, visually, and show distribution of the cell currents. It took me 6 months to build a fully functional app, and unfortunately for Silence, they did not see the value, so too bad. That's basically when I went back and I had seen an ad for a startup called Brash Inc. So Brash is basically one of the startup newly founded startup in the product development, hardware development startups, right? Ecosystem. So I had known the founder, Ali Azgar. We were colleagues at university, but we were really more gym buddies because he finished his PhD in mechanical engineering. I had simply stopped in 2009 when I graduated at bachelor level with my aerospace electronics system design engineering. And throughout my time at Carleton, I'm a Chabad builder, so to speak. Skip class, going to the gym. Numbers are easy to me, and I don't need to study as much as everybody else because fundamentals, once you understand the fundamentals, it's math. You don't need to memorize math. It's 1 + 1 = 2. Understanding comes first. So then basically I had worked with Ali and the team. I was a prime engineer, again the sole hardware engineer, because none of the folks, when I joined the company, it was the 3 founders or partners as well as 1 co-op student. Very, very bright Dominique, very bright young man, and he was also doing mechanical engineering, but he was more astute and competent with electronics and firmware development. So here I was working with ambitious, no red tape team, and basically we had grew the team. When I first joined, it was operating out of a garage right here on Spadina, I believe Spadina Avenue. And then later on they moved to Dalhousie, right at the heart of the downtown Ottawa, Brash Inc. And I was there for some time, from believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was September I started, if I'm not mistaken, and then I left in the following year in 2018 because I had just basically 2017, 2018, and then that's basically where I decided to go back and demonstrate my demo, right, for Alcatel, Sona Alcatel Silence. So yeah, and then I left only for that was before. Sorry. So when I left Brash 2019, so I was there from 2018. I had just previous to that, as I left Nuvio, right, in 2017. From 2017, roughly say June till 2018 September, I was pretty much focused on my smart NVM analytics and the app I told you I developed, and I had to support myself. So what did I do? I did AJ moving. AJ moving, that's right. 2019 when I left, 18 when I joined Brash, I left in 2019. So I joined in September, I left in July almost, I believe, or so. We were going through back and forth because they still wanted my services as a consultant, because here I am. I wanted to be involved in the business side of things, as I'm doing one-man thing from negotiating proposals, budgeting, bidding, right? Because again, it's not like there's only one company that is going to be able to design and develop these gadgets. We have like the likes of AVSS, right? This is one of the company out of Halifax, and they contracted Brash to basically build this parachute system for a drone, right? Which I was the prime engineer on the electronic system design. And you have to work with mechanical, industrial, and bring the product to life, so to speak, right? Now it's in the market, so my name was on it, right? I designed that first circuit board. One of the projects, at least, I worked on, plus many others. And then by 2019, I decided to leave because, again, there's no agreement. I mean, I'm not going to sit there getting paid peanuts when, I'm doing all the work, roughly working 16, 17 hours a day as a startup, at a startups that, I believe in, right? But again, there's a price. It's not at my expense. So now I leave, and then before you know it, 2019, I had just came across a position posting, right, online for a senior hardware engineer as well as a project manager, hardware project manager. So, and I had enough experience. I figured I will apply to the project hardware engineering manager. This was at Design First, again, right here at Athlon, right? So, Ottawa, Design First, which basically, you can look it up. Crystal Research, they're, again, one of the design firms, basically in Ottawa that can develop hardware products, and system electronics, firmware, hardware, what have you. I was there from 2019, October, I remember, like post Thanksgiving weekend I started. And I left in 2021, so from 2019 October all the way to 2021 April, May, if I'm not mistaken. Again, there's the record. You can see my CRA tax filing, right? 2020, 2021, and I was getting a handsome six-figure salary of $125,000. Very respectable, prestigious career. I had just, landed my dream job finally. 2021, as we know, the COVID hit, lockdown, what have you, March. Basically, by April, May, I decided to leave simply because there was, again, some disagreement. And I'm a man that cannot just simply do things simply because, you're telling me to do it if it goes against what I believe is the right thing to do as an engineer. So I left, and I wasn't basically in pursuit of my own life and happiness. And I had a new venture in mind. I wanted to go into the energy industry, in particular solar energy, because I figured, well, I did AJ moving before. I'm physical, I work out, and also I want to do some engineering work. I would like to continue doing my consulting on the side, because I still operate as a consultant. Like I was working 2021 when I left Design First. By August, I was already working with another company called Convergence, right? Convergence Design Services. So this is all the way out in Empire, and I was again assigned as the lead prime hardware engineer on the design of electrical utility vehicle for farm application, where we have to basically on instruction and so to speak, demand of the entrepreneur funding this project, right, to basically build this vehicle, electrical vehicle, EPUV, so electrical powered utility vehicle, and also using some solar panels to allow the vehicle to charge, so to speak, right? Anyway, so that was August 2021, and then following through, the money is short, so the project is put on hold from the electrical side of things. They're doing more mechanical, and then basically what I do is I enroll in a boot camp. 2021, I enroll in a boot camp with Lighthouse Labs, essentially, to do what? Well, develop web apps. Why? Because I realized if I were to have something, I need to be able to build it, and if I only have it on my laptop, because I can do Excel, I can do other Windows-based or desktop application. Well, nowadays we have everything on the, it's a SaaS, software as a service, and if you can have an app that you can showcase, well, you don't need to always have your laptop with you. You can just simply type in the URL, right, the domain name that you buy. So in my case, I had smartnvm.com. I still own the domain name, but I don't have any money anymore to actually have the VPS, which has been, I have been locked up from. So I can build web apps, and upon graduation by December 2021 and January 2022, I had built my first, application from the ground up, solar estimation tool. Basically, it's like a Google map, Google-like. So the first one third of the screen, you get, kind of a Google map zoomed in on your IP, depending on your geolocation. And essentially, you can tap in the address, and that address will now zoom into your house, and you got a box where you can basically rotate the box and align the peak of the roof with the box, right? So that way you can basically, without much, except for maybe sliding some energy profile, how much you're using kilowatt hour a month or a year, and then the rate of energy you pay, roughly, like, there's default values, but I give you the slider so you can actually go about and figure out configure your own energy profile, and within a few clicks of a button, right, you get a customized report with depending on the offset that you wish to have by going solar. So solar system, there are two types. There's the grid type and there's a hybrid type. So grid means that you have a basic system that, when the grid is down, the solar system, cease to operate, because you need the grid signal to log onto and synchronize with. By design, also from a safety regulation point of view, you cannot have your house powered up when the grid is down, because a landman down the road might be electrocuted. But it's more by design than as opposed to safety. So now the second step up is hybrid, where basically you can get a micro island for your house, and in the event of power outage and sunshine is still available, well, your system does operate, but now we need a battery to store the excess energy. Otherwise, you're pissing energy away. So that is hybrid. And then when you couple it with a energy storage solution, a battery, like pick your favorite battery technology, be it lithium or lithium ion or lithium phosphate. Now again, there's rules and regulations, so you cannot put lithium if it's above 1 kilowatt hour. You need approval. So lead acid does not have that problem, because lead acid is industry standard. It's proven. It's safe. It does not have thermal runaway and fire hazard risk. It does not. That's why it's very time consuming and cumbersome process to go and getting batteries installed in your home. And now you're looking at average for a grid tie system is $40,000. Once you go to hybrid and add a battery, you're talking $55,000-$60,000. Yes, I know this because these are the numbers in Canada. Now the numbers may vary, but this is on average. You're paying roughly between $2.5 to $3 per watt peak. So if you have a 10 kilowatt system, that's roughly $30,000 with permit regulation and what have you, some profit the guy has to make, so you're paying $40,000 after taxes and the profit, right? This is why under green home energy incentives in the city of Ottawa and other municipalities, they had these funds allocated for green energy bullshit. So they give you interest-free loan tied to your house or mortgage if you have one as collateral. Hallelujah. Keep paying. So that was basically 2022. At the time I was going through a divorce. Obviously this is where we are today. In 2022 we go through an amicable divorce agreement. I had already shared my plan with my ex-wife, which she opted not to follow suit, which is fine. Amicable divorce agreement. We married in church. You want a divorce, fine, but we have to abide and come to a common ground, respecting each other as parents to this common child that we both have. 2023, essentially, we got I started fresh on, I remember on July 27, 2022, I had just started working with a friend of mine. I call him Maximus. So Kajak, right? Kajak Constructors. So this is a small size business, small business for solar panels. installation, green energy, what have you. So this is lending to my friend's Maximus experience in the large-scale industrial application, working for the PCL and the likes. So 2018, I had been helping him. Again, I had some stints, I told you. So I'm going through the career experience, and when I'm not working in the corporate world, I'm doing my own thing, and sometimes I'm offering my expertise and help, even as a labor, to different causes. So I had already been in the solar industry. We had been in Alfred Town at one point, installing something like the equivalent of $300,000 or $350,000, solar system. So roughly 100K, if you will. And there were incentives at the time, under the Kathleen Wynne administration, right, where basically you get paid 80 cents per kilowatt hour. At the time, it was 8 cents kilowatt hour on average. So now you're getting paid 80 cents kilowatt